Chapter 1, Section 2, Order of Operations. This is probably a review for a lot of you. Okay? When you hear order of operations, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Is that what comes to your mind as well? What else? Anything else? Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. I always remembered it PEMDAS. Did anybody ever remember it PEMDAS? Okay, Sean did. I remembered it as PEMDAS. Okay? So let's review, and you can write these down so you remember. Okay, PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. PEMDAS. Order of operations just stands for if you're given a mathematical expression, like we were yesterday, what order do I complete the operations? Okay, first I'm going to do all the parentheses, P. Second, exponents. If you want to write yours the other way, you don't have to write down. I keep writing down. I don't want to do that. If you want to write them straight across and do 10 dots down, that's fine too. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. I'll give you a couple seconds to write those down. I'm going to pause my video. Now, there is a special case when it comes to multiplication, division, and addition and subtraction. Okay, I'm going to highlight it. If I ever have a problem, okay, and I'm going to scroll down. Erase my problem here. If I ever have a problem, oh, not my end, but with only multiplication and division in it. So 12 divided by 3 times 4. I know that PEMDAS says do multiplication and then division. Technically, is that how you're supposed to do it? No, what is the rule for multiplication and division if that's all that's left? You go left to right. So if you have only multiplication and division, you must go left to right. In this case, I have 4 times 4, which gives me 16. Okay? The same holds true when you have only addition and subtraction left. Okay, and I'll grab a different highlighter color, and I'll show you addition and subtraction. You can circle this or whatever, however you want to make sure you remember. When you have only addition and subtraction left, so if I have 5 plus or minus 12 plus 4. I do not necessarily do the addition first. We okay? Okay. I work from left to right. Okay, left to right. 5 minus 12 gives me negative 7. I wish we could really talk about that. And then plus 4. Negative 3. So make sure you remember when only addition and subtraction is remaining, you go left to right. When only multiplication and division is remaining, you go left to right. However you want to make that a note in your notes, make sure you don't forget that. Now, let's use this. Here we go. Here's my problem. What do I do first? P. Parentheses. Now I have 2 sets of parentheses. I have a box set of parentheses and I have an inside set of parentheses. The brackets, which are the box ones, are the same as other parentheses, but they use them because sometimes when you have more than one set of parentheses, you start getting something that looks like this. And that looks pretty messy, doesn't it? This looks messy. So what they do is they say, okay, well, let's change them. The second set of parentheses, we're going to use brackets. The third set, we'll use a different set of brackets. And they have things that look like this. They'll use these, then they'll use these, then they'll use these. Have you seen those before? Yep. And they change them. Okay, that way you know which parentheses go with what. Because if you have too many straight parentheses, it starts getting pretty messy. Okay? So in this case, I have a parentheses, but then I have something inside the parentheses. So I have to work on from the inside out, from the inside parentheses. So I'm going to start with 2 plus 3. So I have 125 divided by 5 times 2 plus 3, 5. And that's my first step. And your homework here is exactly how I want you to do it. Step by step. You must show your steps. Now, by order of operations, I still do what's in the parentheses first. In this case, the bracket, because this parenthesis is done. What operation is this if I don't have a symbol? Multiplication. Okay, so I'm going to have 5 times 5 is 25. And then so I have 125 divided by 25. Well, if you have $1.25, how many quarters fit in $1.25? 5. 125 divided by 25 is 5. Done. Order of operations. Parentheses first. Multiplication. Then division. What's that? Yeah, you can use calculators. However, here's another answer. If you don't show these steps, it will be a 0. If you punch this into a calculator and push equals and get 5 and there's no work, it's a 0. Okay? Does that make sense? You can use the calculator to divide 125 by 25. You may not punch this into the calculator. That defeats the purpose of knowing order of operations, because the calculator does order of operations for you. So why even do the homework, right? So if you're going to do that, you get a 0 on your homework. If you show each step, use a calculator, that's fine. Okay? Now, let's do another one. Parentheses first. So I'm going to do 0.2 plus 0.3. So I have 6 times 0.2 plus 0.3. You want to plug that into your calculator, that's fine. You also know how to do that, maybe even in your head. It's going to give you 0.5. Line up the decimal points. Now I'm left with multiplication and subtraction. I do my multiplication first by order of operations. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Multiplication comes first. 6 times 0.5, or half of 6, is 3. Okay? If you see 0.5 and it's multiplied by something, it's just half of it. So half of 6 is 3, so that's 3 minus 0.25. If you have $3 and you subtract a quarter, how much money do you have? $2.75. Order of operations. Do another one. They get. There we go. They get a little more complicated. Now, the reason I'm showing you this one is because, do you see the huge line that goes in the middle of the first part of the problem? Okay? There is something special you need to know about that huge line. Okay? It means everything on the top divided by everything on the bottom, which actually implies that there are parentheses right here. Okay? You need to pretend or imply that there are parentheses right there. That means you do everything on the top and then divide it by everything on the bottom. Okay? You can't take 8 squared and divide it by 2 and then take 6 times 4 and divide it by 5 and whatever subtraction. No. You have to do everything on the top first, then do everything on the bottom, and then divide. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's work on that. I have 8 squared. I'm going to do what's in the parentheses first. So that means the top and the bottom. Well, inside this set first, the top set of parentheses, I have an exponent. So we're going to do exponents first. Well, 8 times 8. Right, I have 64 minus 6 times 4. I should have done brackets here because I have 2 sets of parentheses. Okay, and then I have a second set of parentheses on the bottom, 2 and 5. Now notice I do things step by step. I require you to see these steps on your homework. Now I did the exponents. Okay, I'm still inside these top parentheses, but then I want to do multiplication because by order of operations I do that before subtraction. I'm going to do this part here. So I have 64 minus 24, all divided by 2 times 5. Or if you want to keep the parentheses there, that's fine. All minus 4. Now, by order of operations, I'm still inside parentheses. So I'm going to go 64 minus 24 gives me, everybody do that in their head? 40. So I have 40 divided by 2 times 5 minus 4. Now, still inside parentheses, because of that big long division sign, I have 40, and then I do my 2 times 5. Now, by order of operations, I do division before I do subtraction. 40 divided by 10? 4. So I have 4 minus 4, which is the answer to that whole problem. Questions? So far, so good. Good? Okay, at least somewhat. Let's keep going. Now we need to talk about fractions. Okay, make sure you write this down because we're going to be doing fractions a lot. Okay, I didn't get to finish what I was writing, but I'll finish it here in a second. So, make a fractions box or a fractions section in your notes because you need to know about fractions. When you multiply fractions, yeah, there we go. I forgot L. Multiply. First step, cross reduce. Okay, first step is you're going to cross reduce. Second step, multiply the numerators and then multiply the denominators. After you talk about multiplying fractions, we need to talk about dividing fractions. When you divide fractions, the first step is change the problem to multiply by reciprocal. Did I spell that wrong? Yes, I did. I'll scroll down so you can see. Then, step 2, you're going to follow the steps for multiplying fractions. So that's what's in blue above. So if ever you get to a fraction problem, you don't know how to do it, you now know what the steps for multiplying fractions and dividing fractions. And now we need to talk about adding and subtracting. Adding and subtracting, they're pretty much the same rules. Okay? I'll make these red. I'll scroll down for you so you can see. Step 1. You need a common denominator. Step 2. You must know these, Bear. You're not writing anything. Change the fractions so that they have the common denominator. I'm going to abbreviate denominator there so it fits. In step 3, add, or if you're subtracting, subtract the numerator, but leave the denominator. These should all be red, huh? And they changed to green again. There we go. And I'm going to show you an example of these in just a minute. But you have this on the side so you can tell me what step I need to go to and why. So I can find my fraction problem. Order of operations. Yes, I'm sorry. There we go. I'll let you finish writing that down. By order of operations, parentheses come first. So I'm going to do what's inside the brackets, but inside the brackets I do these parentheses. Okay, so I'm going to start here. Now, subtracting fractions, what's the first step? Somebody tell me, you just wrote it down.
Common denominator.
Common denominator. What's the common denominator of 2 and 3? 6. Now change the fraction. How do I get from 2 to 6? Times 3. So 1 times 3 is 3. How do I get from 3 to 6? Times 2. 1 times 2 is 2. Now, what's the next step once you have a common denominator? I did what we just did. We changed the fraction so that they have a common denominator. Now subtract the numerator. So I have 3 minus 2, which is what? What's 3 minus 2? 1. So I have 1, and then what do I have on the bottom? 6 still. Now, by order of operations, I'm still inside the parentheses, but do I do my multiplication or my subtraction first? Multiplication. What's the first step of multiplication? Cross reduce. So look at the 3 and the 3. Can you reduce those? Yeah, 1 and 1. Divided by 3, divided by 3. What about the 4 and the 2? Can you cross reduce those? Sure, divide by 2. Divide by 2. Now, once you've cross-reduced, what's the next step? Multiply the numerators. 1 times 1. 2 times 1. 2. So I have 1/2 minus 1/6. All that times 12. So far, so good. Now I'm subtracting fractions and I need, what's the first step? Subtracting fractions. Look at your notes if you have to. Common denominator of 6 and 2. What's common for 6 and 2? What can you multiply both by and get it? Well, 2. I'm thinking of something higher, a multiple. So 6, 12, 18, 24. Yeah, 6, right? Both of them are go into 6. Or 6 goes into, 2 goes into 6, and 6 goes into 6. So I'm going to change them both with the 6 on the bottom. Okay, so my second step, after I find a common denominator, is to change the fraction. How do I get from 2 to 6? What do? Multiply by 3. So now I take 1 times 3. How do I get from 6 to 6? Well, times 1, so that one just stays the same. Once you have changed your fraction, what's the next step when you're adding, subtracting fractions? Subtract the numerator. So I have 3 minus 1, and the denominator stays the same. Now I have 2 6 inside the parentheses, and I'm done with the parentheses. So I have 2 6 times 12. I can either reduce 2 6 times 12, but how do I multiply a fraction by a whole number? Not the decimal. Yeah, put 12 over 1. Not a 1 over the 12, but 12 over the 1. Or, yeah, 12 over 1. Now, when you multiply fractions, what's the first step? Cross reduce. Can you cross reduce 2 and 1? No. What about 6 and 12? Sure. They reduce to 1, divide by 6, divide by 6. Once you've cross-reduced, what's the next step? Sure. 2 times 2? 4. 1 times 1? 1. What's 4 over 1?
4.
Final answer. When I see your homework, I must see work. Yes, I will go wherever you need to go. Right here? There? Yep. Okay. I must see work. I must see work. You have a worksheet. It's due tomorrow. Good. Put it in your book, put it in your notebook, verbally. Now, listen up. Those of you who spent time writing down these examples, guess what?